So let's talk a little bit about Advaita or non-duality, which is the so-called Vedanta or the end of the Vedas. So all the wisdom of the Vedas basically concludes with the absolute truth of Advaita or non-duality, which basically states that reality or truth is non-dual, indivisible. So experience is fundamentally based in duality and the assumption of the reality of experience, the assumption that experience is real, is based on the fundamental assumption that duality is real, because without duality there would be no experience. Because what we call experience is basically restricted to the five senses at this juncture in our evolution for most people. And time is a fundamental ingredient of any sensory perception, because every sensory perception has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Every taste comes and goes, comes, vibrates for a while and goes. Every fragrance comes, vibrates for a while and goes. Every sound arises, vibrates for a while and subsides again. Every visual perception is also temporary, and so is every texture that one feels. So, time is basically the phenomenon of change. The phenomenon of time and the phenomenon of change are the same thing. And change implies duality, because for change to be defined, there have to be two states, and state 1 has to turn into state 2 for change to be perceived. So duality is a fundamental pre preconception of fundamental assumption in the belief in the reality of time is the assumption of duality, the assumption that there are two things. But Advaita or non-duality is basically the statement that reality is one, indivisible. In fact, even to say reality is one is not completely accurate, because the concept of one arises in the undeniable awareness that is reality. Even the concept of zero arises in the undeniable awareness that is reality. So it is trans mathematical, actually. Reality is trans mathematical. You can't even say that it's one, because the whole idea of numbers and mathematics is something that arises from the universe or reality, or whatever you want to call it. Words are not particularly important as long as the meaning of the word is being understood. So even the term non-duality cannot be defined without duality to contrast it with. That which is non-dual is that which is not dual by definition. So duality is the seed of experience basically. Space and time is the fundamental duality that we experience. The idea of here and there, now and then. Another fundamental duality that we all experience is the duality of self and other. The idea that the self is something separate from the cosmos as a whole, which creates a division in our minds between the self and the other. And the subsequent story that plays out is the relationship between the apparent self and the apparent other. But at the ultimate level, which is the level of non duality, both the self and the other are that non dual truth, appearing as both the self and the other. So language breaks down when we consider non-duality, because language is intended for communication, and in aloneness language breaks down, because without somebody who understands the language, the decoder of the message, in other words, the message is meaningless. So language is fundamentally based in duality, and therefore that which is non-dual is inexpressible. That's why whenever we try to talk about non-duality or the ultimate truth, we run into paradoxes, like the apparent coexistence of limitation and limitlessness, the coexistence of suffering and ecstasy, the coexistence of pain and pleasure, good and evil. These apparently contradictory and paradoxical phenomena are actually manifestations of the same underlying reality, which is the one consciousness, non dual truth. And we are that non dual truth, expressing temporarily as the play of duality, or what we call creation, or the universe, or the cosmos, or manifestation. So, entire books can be written about non duality and the implications of non duality on the quality of life. Hours of satsangs are conducted to achieve an accurate understanding of non duality. So, the intellectual aspect of non duality is a lot of noise actually, because this is it, the irrefutable non dual truth here and now. It's a living experience. The attempt to convey it is just an artistic endeavor, basically. We can make approximations to it, fairly beautiful approximations, but they're never the real thing. It's like the difference between the word chocolate and the taste of chocolate, as we discussed earlier. So that's a bit on non duality.